Alright everybody, this video is pretty much going to be the easiest guide out there on how to actually make sad and emotional guitar beats, all from scratch in FL Studio. I'm literally going to guide you guys through everything from starting off with the melody, all the effects, how the pattern works, small little tricks here and there, going through it all and then ending off with the drums as well. So let's not waste any more time. Let's just jump right in. Alright, so we're now here in FL Studio 21. First things first, we obviously want to make sure we have a nice low BPM. When you're going for something more sad and emotional, especially with this trappy type of vibe, you can go for something like 140, 150. Some people like to even bump it up to 165. In this case, I'm just going to go for something in between, like maybe 150. And since I want to keep this tutorial super simple for you guys, I don't want to overcomplicate anything. And that way, we're not even going to overcomplicate the guitars or the VSTs we're going to be using. But we obviously need to have a good quality sound. So the guitar sound we're going to be using is actually going to be in Arcade. Like I said, I want to keep this simple. I know pretty much most of you, if not everybody that's watching this, has Arcade downloaded or has some sort of subscription on it. Since I don't want you guys to need to worry about all these expensive VSTs and whatever, you can use Arcade. There's a bunch of cool different instruments and sounds you can use in here. Not sponsored, not anything like that. Literally just like actually a huge shout out, because you can literally get all the instruments you need for like 10 bucks a month. So what you want to do is you want to go over to the search section, and instead of going through the regular samplers like everybody usually does with all these different patterns, there is an instrument section in here. You can pick whichever instrument you want. Obviously in this case we're going to go for guitars, and over here you actually have a bunch of different guitar sounds, which are just like single note guitar sounds, basically like a built-in VST inside of Arcade. A lot of you guys aren't even using this, so that's pretty much what we're going to be doing in here. I'm going to go for this nylon sequence, I guess, if that's what it's called, nylon's Q preset right here. It sounds like this right here if we just play a little bit. So as you guys can hear, it's an electrical type of guitar, and that's exactly the vibe you want to go for when we're making emotional and sad type of stuff. Nylon guitars, especially those like super classical nylon guitars, they work amazingly for like wavy type of stuff, and more emotional things we definitely want to go for something like this, which is more electronic but still a little bit thin like a nylon guitar. So now that we have the sound picked, what we need to do now is actually add that guitar pattern. But before we actually add the guitar pattern, I actually like to start off with effects on my guitar before I even lay down the pattern, especially with those guitar VSTs, because they sound completely different when they actually have effects on. So electric guitars without any effects, it sounds like this, pretty dry. But when you add those effects in, you hear there's just like way smoother sound. So since we now have the BPM, we have the sound and the effects down, we want to make sure we actually pick a pattern. In this case, I'm gonna again keep this very, very simple for you guys. The pattern is literally just gonna be a C minor. That's all you need to worry about. It's literally just gonna highlight everything in here for you, so you can pick whichever gray note you want to use. That's gonna work perfectly fine. As for the effects, they are very simple. It's just an NS1 to reduce some noise, a little bit of EQ and delay here and there. Again, just cleaning up the sound. You honestly don't even need that there if you don't want to. Main effects are really just like the RC20 using the Vinyl 3 preset right there. A little bit of roam. This is pretty much just a tiny bit of reverb at 12%. Again, not a lot, just a tiny bit. And this EQ is very important at the end, which just kind of reduces the low end and a tiny bit of the highs as well. With all that out of the way, let's start actually picking in the pattern. Now we're putting in the pattern C minor. We're just going to start off by putting down a C note right here. And especially with guitar beats, you guys see a lot of people like to not put their notes on the same place or on the same bar like that, because oh, that's a piano thing, that's a chord thing, so on and so on. So they usually like to extend notes out and do some complicated stuff like that. Obviously that's super cool and I'm a high advocate of it, but in this case, again, I want to keep things very, very easy. So I'm going to show you guys the best way to actually make patterns while still using chords, even if it's a guitar melody. So to make a C minor chord, you put down a C note right there, skip the next highlighted note, put a C note right there, do the same thing again, skip this, and put it right there. Now that we have this, I'm just going to shorten it a little bit because I want it to be a bit bouncy, a bit catchy, but still giving us a little bit of that emotional type of vibe. So to give us a little bit of more of that emotional type of vibe, the chord progression we want to go for is just by having this chord right there, copy it over, and then pitching it down by 5 semitones. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we can do a few little adjustments on the second part right here. So to keep things a bit bouncy and catchy, what I want to do is actually shorten this. So I'm going to shorten it something half halfway like this, maybe even actually a little bit more, because what I want to do is just copy this same chord over, but I'm gonna have it hit right here before the third bar, because it's gonna give us a cool little bounce in the first, second, and third, almost like a little bit of a triplet type of sound. Now I don't want the same exact chord to be playing, so in this case I'm just gonna pitch it up by 1 semitone, but you guys can see that this B note isn't actually in key because it's on a little bit of a darker scaled note right here. So all I'm gonna do is just pitch this up by 1 semitone to make sure it's actually in scale, and it's also complementing this that we have right here. It's the same note that just keeps the flow going throughout the whole melody. So now that we have this, we can pretty much just extend this out all the way, and this is an easy way to just have our chord progression be as simple as possible. So you guys can see we're getting a little bit of that emotional vibe while still having some relief towards the end, which is super cool. Now, obviously, I don't want this to be like the dumbest melody ever, even though it's pretty cool sounding and it sounds pretty nice. We obviously need to add a little bit of flair to this, a little bit of more, I guess, sauce, just to spice things up a bit and also keep it a little bit more interesting, especially with guitar melodies. This is pretty much going to be our base, but from here, what we want to do, as I said, just spice things up. So the next thing we're going to do is actually go to the slice tool and start slicing some of these notes up. This is the easiest way to actually make your melody more interesting, because you can just keep using the same notes while still having a little bit of more bounce. So literally by just slicing up one note like this, we can make it way more interesting. So I know that's not like everything, but dude, literally just slicing up this one note right here already starts to like fill out the melody way more, and it just makes it so much cooler to listen to. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing. Let's start off by slicing this one little note right there, just so we can have a little bit more movement on this first part. For the second part, I'm going to shorten it like this, and then I'm going to do something a little bit interesting. I'm going to copy this over, because you can see it's the same exact length. I'm going to copy this over as well, but I want to kind of tease this note a little bit in already. So instead of having the same note hit, let's just pitch this up by 1 semitone so we have the same note right there. For this section, as you guys can see, this is a little bit low since we're going from here low and then keeps being low. So I want to add something a little bit more towards the high end on this last part. So what we can do, we can just copy this middle note right here and pitch it up by 1 octave so we have some more higher frequencies. And then we can also start slicing some of these last notes over here as well. So obviously there's like a very interesting thing we can do on the 4th bar, which is like starts to slice something towards the end right here, because this chord is pretty long. So again, to keep things easy, don't overcomplicate things, just look at, okay, this is the 4th bar, chord is a little bit long, let's do something towards the end right here. So I'll just slice this up to begin with. We can slice something right here, and then I think we can do a cool little slice right here with an extra note just to make it a little bit cooler. So what I would want to do is actually just copy the slice note up to this G sharp, and instead of having them hit at the same exact time, you can hold Alt on your keyboard, move this slightly off grid just so they're not hitting at the same exact time. And we actually want to do this for all of these notes that are online right here. So easiest way to strum them is obviously just by selecting everything, hitting Alt and S on your keyboard, which is just automatically going to strum them off grid like that. Just makes it more natural, more interesting, and more realistic as well. So from here, we pretty much have the main little melody going on right there. And then we can pretty much do the same exact thing on the second part. So if we copy that over, there's just a few little adjustments we can do to make this a little bit more interesting, so it's not just a copy paste. But main thing I want to preference is by saying you don't want to like do a lot, you just want to do a few tiny changes here and there, because it makes life way easier for you as a producer, and it also doesn't overcomplicate things for the listener. It just keeps things very subtle, but you can still hear a little bit of a difference, if that makes sense. So the only adjustments that I really want to do is actually just shorten some of these notes, again, to make it a little bit more realistic and natural, because if you're shortening notes with VSTs, it almost sounds like you're actually taking the fingers off the guitar. So it sounds like you're actually playing a real guitar instead of actually using a VST. So the way we're going to do this is by just going again to the slice tool, and we're going to chop these up a little bit short like this. We can also shorten this so we have a little bit of space in between the notes, which again just gives us that realistic sound. So if you actually just take a listen to this little bit right there. You You can hear how the sound actually stops for a second, but it fades out smoothly, almost like you're pulling off. Now again, we can just do a few little minor tweaks. So what I would like to do is add a little bit of a higher frequency on this second part, just to differentiate it from the first part over here. So let's just add maybe a D up here and just take a listen to how it implements with the rest. Perfect. So that's pretty much everything you need to do for the guitar. You don't need to overcomplicate this. Again, it's pretty much like the easiest way to actually go about it. So that's exactly what we're going to do in this case. All right, perfect. So now that we have the guitar melody nailed down, what we want to do from here is actually just add a couple little elements to this, just to fill out the sound a little bit, because it can be a little bit dry, especially with those sad and emotional guitar beats. The guitar alone can get kind of stale, so you definitely want to have a lot of backing, a lot of atmosphere, just to fill that out a little bit. So to do that, what I'm going to do is actually going to be to open up Analog Lab 5, and inside of Analog Lab 5 I do have my Horizon multi-kit, where I have a bunch of different sounds that are going to fit perfectly for the vibe we're going for. So in my opinion, the easiest way to do this is actually just by cloning the pattern you already have. So you can literally just hit Control-C and Control-V, paste it into the Analog Lab 5, and then just mess around with the different sounds and see which one we like the best. Okay, so I actually really like this sound right here. I think if we just add a few effects to this, it can actually turn out super cool. So without the guitar, it would kind of sound like this. So you can also mess around with the pitch if we pitch it up 1 octave. I'm also going to turn the velocity up and go over to the effects, and let's see if we can add a lot of atmosphere to this. So to do that, you'd obviously add a little bit of roam. And actually, you can hear it kind of has a harsh little cut. It's almost like some keys. So I would actually like to adjust the EQ on the high end of this. You can see how it's almost like we have a cutoff right now. So it's not as plucky. It's more so as a pad. And to really emphasize that sound, what I like to do is open up RC20, go over to this magnitude transition 1 preset, and turn the distortion down a little bit, and it's really going to give us that reverb, atmospheric type of vibe out of this. That's pretty much perfect. So let's try to add back the guitar and take a listen how it sounds. That's perfect. Awesome. So now that you can really hear how we just by adding that one sound, it can add a lot of atmosphere to your track. And if you want more of a guitar presence, you can go back to the guitar and we can actually add a little bit of guitar rig 6. If you find a cool little preset, it can really emphasize the electrical guitar side of things. So I do have a pretty cool preset, which is this timeless clean preset. If you just turn this on, you can hear it's going to sound super harsh, but the reason for this is just because of a few effects. So you can actually go in and turn off this vintage verb, this tremolo, as well as this Chicago amp right here. Just like that, we have two pretty clean sounds that actually emphasize the guitar sound as well as the emotional vibe out of it. Now the next thing we need to do is add a little bit of a cool thing that's actually going to make this super emotional and also super sad, and that's obviously going to be some sort of vocals. Now as for the vocals, some people like to use arcade as well. Since we actually already used arcade, I might actually use splice instead, but let's just check out where we can actually find the best sounding vocal to this type of pattern. So I did found this little cool vocal right here in splice. If we just drag it in, it sounds like this.
Think about it. Falling in love, but I'm falling too deep.
So what we want to do with this is just make sure we actually time stretch it correctly so it fits in with the rest of the sample that we already have. So to do this, just double click it, make sure to turn this time knob so it sticks to the pattern. From here, you just turn from resample to stretch, and then we obviously want to switch the pitch to the correct one. So this is F minor, which means we want to do F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, and then C. That's where we are, C minor. From here, let's just put it to the right insert and take a listen to how it sounds now. Already sounds way cooler, already in time. If we turn this on as well, we can take a listen to how it sounds with the rest. So there's just a couple adjustments that I want to do to this to make sure it sounds even better. As you can see, this kind of starts a little bit in a weird place. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slice this right here and then take a listen towards this part as well, where somewhere we kind of need to slice it over here as well, because I want this part to start somewhere right here instead of right here. And we're going to do the same thing right here, just slice that up and turn it over here instead. Alright, so now that we kind of stretched it out and did everything we needed to, we obviously need to add some effects to this to give us that atmosphere again. So we're pretty much just going to do the same exact thing we did with the second sound, just add a lot of reverb, some RC20, and a little bit of EQ. So again, just having that low key in the background is pretty much the move. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do right now is something super saucy. I'm going to head over to my Motion Bundle Kit and I'm going to drop into the one-shot kit as well. Find a cool little one-shot and I'm going to show you guys a super cool thing you can do. I'm going to head over to the guitar section since we're already kind of on the guitar vibe. Let's just drag in a clean sounding guitar like this one. Now from here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reverse this. So I just click right there. Yes, I think it would be super cool right there. Again, just kind of drench this thing in reverb and also actually pitch it up by 1 octave so you have the lighter tones, and then it just complements the rest of the melody so nicely. Dude, that's so fire. Okay, let's add some more percussive elements to this as well. And when I mean percussive elements, I'm actually just talking about I guess just something in the background, some sort of counter melody we can use in between the different hooks and whatnot, which is really just going to finish off the melody nicely. Something like a string like this would be a cool little element. These are all found in Splice, by the way. Also found this cool little thing right here. And we're also just kind of going to use that as a counter melody and just have that as some sort of texture as well. And that's pretty much going to be for the melody. Now, before we actually go in and add the drums, if you guys are finding a lot of value off my videos on YouTube, you're starting to make good quality music, your beats are sounding super fire, your melodies are definitely fire, then I want to let you guys know that I've actually opened up a mentorship where I'm helping guys one-on-one on how to actually not just make good quality music, but actually also turning your music production into something that is sustainable as a full-time income. So if you guys do actually care about how to make money off of your music, then I have an application to work with me one-on-one linked down below. Make sure you're super serious. I'm not helping out everybody. This is application only. So if you guys are interested in getting help from me personally one-on-one as well moving forward, you guys can check out the link down below. Fill out the application. There's just like a couple of questions. We can jump on a call. I'll see if I can help you guys out and we can look at potential next steps from there. With that being said, let's actually add those drums in as well. Okay, so we kind of have this laid out. As for the drum sounds I'm using, they're actually all coming from my Horizon multi-kit. This will also be linked down below, but if you join the mentorship, you're actually going to get all my kits included as well, so you can kind of see what you need more. But in this case, we're just going to open up the drum kit right here. Start off with a bit of an open hat, and then the clap. That's it right there. As for the hi-hats, they're actually so easy with this kit because I'm just going to drag in the hi-hat, and then instead of actually making the whole pattern, I'm just going to head over to the MIDI pack section and drag in one of the hi-hat MIDIs that I have. Yeah, this one right here is perfect. Just gives us the bounce we're going for. Let's add some bounce with a few rims. Let's add the open out as well. Oof, that's actually such a perfect spot. With that kind of added, last things we really need now is just a kick and 808. That should be it. Now, one cool trick you can actually do is just actually route all of the melody into an insert like the 7th insert right here. And if you want to, you can actually go in and adjust the whole pitch of the sample just to make it even more sad, more emotional. So we're gonna test the pitch down by 2, which is gonna be A sharp. So when we add that 808 now, it's going to be even deeper. So it would usually be like this, right? But since we pitched down by 2, it will be A sharp. So let's just test out how this sounds. Obviously these are like way too deep, so if we pitch them up, it does sound way cooler, but we definitely need to add that kick to all this. So I'm just gonna add the kick bounce first with a little bit of boost right here. I like it at the normal pitch like this. Then we can just try to pitch up the 808. So you can have something like this. You can really just kind of experiment with the pitch of the 808. So I kind of like having these down for sure. And remember guys, if you want to get one-on-one help from me to actually make money off of music production, you have the application link down below. It's going to help you guys a ton. It's literally more in-depth help from me. You get all my kits, you get a step-by-step guide, you pretty much get everything you need. Coaching calls, 24/7 access to me, all my kits, everything you need. Right, so now with the beat finished, let's take a final listen.
Shut up, Marco. Marco.